The Vermont housing market has completely changed from what we've grown accustomed to over the past 3 years. Today, hardly any listings receive multiple offers. Most homes are selling for list price or below as opposed to list price or above, and buyers are starting to get the upper hand. And while that may be true, the data tells a little bit of a different story. While yes, the housing market is slowing, less homes are selling for over list price, and buyers are starting to get more leverage, we're still a long way from a normal housing market. Month supply of inventory, or the ratio between homes for sale and buyers putting those homes under contract, currently sits at 2.8 months. This is up from last year's 2.2 month supply of homes on the market, but it's lower than October's 3.1 month supply and much lower than November of 2019's 5.6 month supply. Anywhere between 4 and 6 month supply is considered a balanced market, where if month supply of inventory is over 6 months, that's considered a buyer's market, and anything under 4 months is considered a seller's market. So according to this data, we are still in a buyer's market, even though buyers are starting to get the upper hand. Yes, the housing market has completely changed. It feels much more balanced compared to years past. Many homes are selling for under list price, and homes are sitting for longer. We'll see that in the days on market when we dive deep into the data here. High interest rates and high prices are keeping buyers on the sidelines right now, leaving sellers with fewer buyers competing for their homes. However, we're still a long way from what would be considered a buyer's market, and this could help explain why home prices are up 7% year over year, despite the market slowing down significantly this year. So look, if you don't know who I am, my name is Liam O'Reilly. I'm a realtor with Jerry Reilly Real Estate here in Vermont. I spend my days speaking with buyers and sellers, keeping in touch with market data, and relaying that information here on this channel to help you make the best home buying or home selling decision you can. In this video, I'm going to give a deep dive into the most recent market stats around Vermont, so you have the best information for your home purchase or home sale. Real quick, if you are in the market to buy or sell a home here in Vermont, all of my contact information is in the description. Feel free to reach out to me directly. I would be happy to help you. So let's get into the data. Let's dive deep into these charts, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about here. We have the median sales price at $423,000 across the state. This is up almost 7% year over year. We can see it's down slightly from its peak of $460,000. We're looking at data all across the state. These are single-family home sales throughout the entire state of Vermont. This dip from July to now is typical. You can see here, there's seasonality in real estate. Typically, during the summer, that's when you see the highest median sales price. Doesn't mean that's necessarily when you're going to get the highest price for your home, but that's when the most people are selling their properties, right? More buyers are out there, more sellers are out there. It's easier to move in the summer compared to the winter when the days are shorter and the weather is colder. So what was I talking about in regards to month supply of inventory? We see here, this is the graph of month supply. The blue line, anything between that thick blue line, is what's considered a balanced market. So we can see here, anything below the blue line is still considered a seller's market. Anything above that blue line would be considered a buyer's market. Now, Vermont, for whatever reason, they do their data a little bit differently. That blue line is marked between 5 and 7 months, as opposed to between 4 and 6 months, like you would see on a national level. For the sake of argument, I use between 4 and 6 month supply as opposed to between 5 and 7 months. And you can see here, we're at 2.8 month supply. Back before the pandemic, back in 2019, when we take a look at that data, November of 2019, we were at 5.6 months supply. So the market was balanced back then, right? There was relatively enough homes for the people who wanted to buy them. You didn't have to compete with people. Maybe you could negotiate a seller down on price. And while we are seeing that come back, we're still at 2.8 months supply. We're still in what would be considered a seller's market. Now, when we take a look at homes that have sold for over list price, the percentage of homes that have sold for over list price is this graph right here. We're at 25%. This is the lowest level since March of 2021, where we're at, February of 2021, where we're at 25.8, and then January, we're at 20%. We take a look back into the 2019 numbers. We see here that November of 2019, only 13% of properties across the state, single family homes, across the state of Vermont sold for over list price. So what is my point behind all of this? Well, the point is that yes, the housing market is slowing. Yes, it's less of a seller's market than what we've seen in years past, but the median sales price is still ticking up. And overall, we are still in a seller's market. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't good deals to be had. That doesn't mean that homes aren't sitting on the market for longer. They are. The market is changing, and it's certainly an easier time to buy today than what we've seen over the past 3 years. But I think personally that it feels easier. It feels like more of a balanced market because of all the craziness that we experienced over the past 3 years with the multiple offers, with low interest rates, with buyers competing against each other. That was not normal. So now we've calmed down from that. But statistically speaking, this is still a relatively hot market. Now, let's take a look at a few more key indicators, and then we're going to dive into the Chittenden County data. If you don't know, Chittenden County is where I work. That's where Burlington is. It's the most populated county in Vermont. What I wanted to take a look at is the days on market. Median days on market sits at 30. We see it spiking up here. And we did see it spike up last year, rolling into the holiday season here. But I think this trend has a good chance of continuing as we move into 2025 because so many buyers are on the sidelines right now, right? There's not a lot of people who can afford to purchase with these interest rates and these prices, and mortgage rates, they actually ticked up today. When we take a look at the 10-year treasury, we see this big spike in the 10-year treasury over the past 2 days. Now that's due to recent CPI data, and that's really a topic for another video. But what you have to know is that the mortgage rates follow the 10-year treasury, and this spike in the 10-year treasury means that mortgage rates will rise. Now, one other aspect that I wanted to look at is the active inventory on the market. When we take a look at the homes on the market, we do see the seasonal dip, which is typical. Typically, there's less homes on the market this time of year than there are in the summer and in the fall, right? Sellers decide to take their property off the market. They might wait for the holiday season. They might wait until after the new year before putting their home back on the market. And many potential sellers are gearing up to list their home in the new year. Now, when we take a look at unsold listings, I do think this tells a big story as well. There are 200 unsold listings, up 50% from the prior year. We can see that we're still down from pre-pandemic. If we look at November of 2019, there were 354 homes that didn't sell across the state. Now we're at 200. So look, we are increasing. Home buying conditions are getting better, but we're still far away from where we were in 2019 and really the previous decade before that. Now, let's take a look at what's going on in Chittenden County. We see here for Chittenden County, we are taking a look at both single family homes and condos. I think that gives you a better representation of what's going on around Burlington compared to just single family homes. So we see we're at 510,000, up almost 7%. So very similar to what's happening across the state. But when we take a look at the month supply of inventory, we'll see that it's even tighter in Chittenden County than the rest of the state. We see here, this is the 5 to 7 timeline, or excuse me, the 5 to 7 month supply mark, that blue line that I was mentioning. Again, 4 to 6 is what I would consider balanced. Regardless, 1.5 month supply, we are far below what's considered a balanced market. Now, that being said, there are indicators showing that the housing market is slowing. When we take a look again at the active inventory and we take a look at what's happening with unsold listings, we see active inventory. Yes, it's down, but that's typical. We expect active inventory to be down this time of year. It's still up 15% year over year. So there's about 15% more homes that translates into about 20 more properties on the market this year than there were last year. And we take a look at unsold listings. Again, we see this big spike. Look at that huge spike. We're actually above 2019 numbers of unsold listings. So some properties that aren't selling, these are homes that are expiring or that sellers are choosing to take off the market. Again, as we roll through the holiday season, they might put it back on the market in the new year or maybe in the spring. But these are properties that have not sold in MLS. We see this big spike, up 133% year over year, or about 20 more listings in Chittenden County. Again, Vermont's not that populated of a state. So the fact that there are this many homes that aren't selling is really a telling sign for the overall housing market. So what does this mean? What does this all mean for you as a home buyer or a home seller out there? Well, we'll start off with the sellers. If you're a home seller, the key is, I've been talking about this for a few months now, to be patient, right? Your home might not sell within the first weekend. It doesn't mean that it's not going to sell. I've seen it go both ways. I've seen home sellers list their property high or maybe even accurately, not get the amount of interest that they're expecting, and then they decide to drop their list price, and all of a sudden they attract an offer, they attract some buyers, that sparks more interest in their property, and their property ends up selling. I've seen other sellers leave their property at their list price. They don't adjust their price at all, and maybe they get offers under list price. Some of them sell, some of them don't. So you really have to understand what situation you're in as a home seller. One thing I would not recommend as a home seller is, if your home is not selling, if it's sitting on the market and you would take a lower number, say you have it listed for 500 and you're like, look, I would take 450. I would not keep your home at 500 and expect offers and then wait for an offer to come in at 450. I would suggest dropping your price to 450 or maybe 460, somewhere around that 450 number, and try to find a buyer who is willing to pay list price. And again, even though there aren't many multiple offer situations going on, when we take a look at what's happening in Chittenden County, we see the percentage that close above list price, we're at 32%. So again, the lowest level since really 2020. But since, let's see here, June of 2020 is the last time we saw this 32% number. So, again, there are fewer homes that are selling for over list price than we saw in years past, but some sellers are still getting multiple offers. And if you drop your price to that number that you're hoping to get, you might be lucky enough to attract multiple offers. Now, if you're a buyer out there, I would suggest targeting properties that have been on the market for a little while. Those are the sellers that are going to be most negotiable when it comes to their price, particularly sellers of vacant properties that aren't being lived in. Now, this doesn't work for every seller. The seller might choose to rent their property out as opposed to sell it if they don't get the right number. But you won't know unless you submit that offer, you get the seller's response, and then you can assess everything from there. Remember, it's always easier to go up in price than it is to go down. If you offer below list price, or if you offer higher, say a property is listed at 500, you offer 475, the seller says, we'll take it. And then you come back and say, actually, we want 450. You're probably not going to have much success with that negotiation strategy. It's better to come in at 450, see what the seller says, and it's always easier to come up from there. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.